ये धुंध की शतरंज में गुमसुम से दयार, जागती सुबह में हसरतें बेचैन, अभी भी एक दिलकश तमन्ना जिंदा है। बगीचे में लौट आए वो मासूम सी हवा, सफेद घोड़ों पे सवार यादों के रंग, चमकते खुशनुमा सूरज के संग। सुनहरी धूप में खिला वो प्यारा आंगन, जहां तितलियां बरती थीं मदहोशी की उमंग। I wrote these lines just now in the honor of today's show. Heartiest welcome. I greet everyone from the depth of my heart into our 82nd Sheetalnath Conversation, Sunday evening, 7 p.m. IST, Renaissance show. I think this is a great association we have been ambling through last 81, landmark voyage conversations. And these conversations, in a way, take us to this, what do you call it? Just a minute. These associations take us to a voyage which is very far, which is perennially flowing to different time spaces, to different eras, till the contemporaneous. We have stayed at many occasions, at many time spaces, at many spots to decipher the era, the ambience, the sunshine, the rainbow, the color of that particular era. Cause is very noble. Purpose is to just evocate the entire scenic of that particular time period, which has gone through these passages of history, into something, to be depicted very honestly, very candidly, and it gives back the light of self-esteem to all of us, and it brings back glory of our past. It adds on to many dimensions of human endeavor. There are different versions. Somebody says don't cling to the past. Somebody says don't go to the future. Somebody says stay in the present. But I think this is an oscillation. Human existence is a mystery. We have to move from past to present and future, because past is connected with the memory, and memory is connected with the cognizance of human mind. So that is how it is. I don't want to sound to be a neurological scientist, but certainly I would like to say during the course of the descent of these programs over last 2 years, we have been reasonably able to go through many wonderful aspects of our civilization, especially the last century. 20th century has been the main focus and emphasis of this program. And you can see that when we talk about a personality, a great personality, we talk about his contribution, we talk about that era, we expand into an era. So we try to recreate this entire environment of that era, so that we ultimately are able to witness it with a very candid, close vicinity. And somewhere down the line, we are bounced back through our heart waves to feel that particular atmosphere, that particular ambience which is meandered in these times. I won't be naming here because I have been repeatedly telling you about all the kind of programs and conversations we had. But yes, we had a couple of conversations about all the great personalities, about institutions, about the places, about the streets, about the towns. And as you said, it's a perennial and it's a continuous process. We are going to explore because we have a sagacious wealth of our civilization, personalities, and many dimensions which are very much impressing, which are very much inspiring. So I won't be talking much about that, but certainly I would like to say, when we talk about Kashmir, the land nestled in the majestic Himalayas, lap of the Himalayas. We talk about the highland of India, the great crown of India, which time immemorially has inspired. And we have an end level of people, end level of eras, right from the first coronation of our first queen, which has happened 5,000 years ago, then to the many periods, and then finally to the Kanishka and Ashoka the Great, and then Lalta Aditya, Amanti Varman, Varsha, Jainal Abidin, And then finally, the great Dogra rule, period, which all institutions were rebuilt, and it was a fresh, piece of life for entire Kashmiris, irrespective of all the religions we belong to. So somewhere down the line, I'm trying to tell you that this whole passage, this whole glitter, this whole saga, is to be retold by a very honest, scholarly, candid, intervention by the great personalities who visit us every Sunday. I can't name. From time, if we go on talking about the time, we can talk about the Buddha period. We can talk about Nagarjuna. We can talk about Sharangadev in the 12th, 13th century. We can talk about Kalhana. We can talk about Jonarja, Shivara, and we can talk about go on and on to the contemporary times in the last century. We had the great leaders like the very tall leader like Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, and followed by Sadiq Saab and Bakshi Saab and many others who just sat on the very powerful position as the chief ministers and prime ministers of the state. But besides that, we also talk about. We know that in the freedom struggle, struggle of the country, Kashmiris who have moved out from here into the Lahore, Jaipur, Lucknow, Faizabad, Calcutta, Meerut, and other places, they have always been, they have contributed to this country, be it in the freedom struggle, be it in the art, in the literature, into the Second World War army, be it in the judiciary. We have very great names. Our list is endless. I'm not going to enumerate that right now. We have Arju Saha, we have Motilal Nehru, and we have Tej Bahadur Safru, and Hadainath Kunjlu. We have Dr. Saifuddin, Professor Saifuddin, Kichlu Saab, and many other people who have been very instrumental in independence of this our great country. Coming back to the 20th century part of our state, our Jammu and Kashmir state, we have seen that it was an era when Hari Singh was at the landscape, and probably Hari Singh was a person who went for the freedom of expression, and the democracy has started. It was a monarchy, no doubt, but democracy has started settling in, and we had great number of people in those eras, like I said, Sheikh Abdullah, Bakshi Saab, Beg Saab, Sadiq Saab, many people. Along with them were the great other, not by any means the less. They were the few among the equals. Great Kashmiri Pandit leaders like Shimran Kokadar, great parliamentarian leader, and then the great reformists like Ashar Bandhuji and Justice Kelam Saab. Many others. So here, as I said, that we are not talking about the personalities, we are talking about the eras, we are talking about the significance of that era, we are talking about the contribution of that era. So let's go back today, as per the subject is that we are going to decipher this, we are going to see emergence of leadership, Kashmiri leadership, Kashmiri Pandit leadership in particular, in the landscape of 20th century Kashmir. And I will be glad to know today my guest is a very special and very revered contemporary personality, Professor Zutshi Saab. Everybody knows Professor Zutshi Saab. He is a man of his word, of his conviction, who speaks without any biases. And he is a scholar, he's an educationist, great educationist, a visionary. And he has been the former student of alumni of International School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, former alumni of political science at the University of Kashmir, and former alumni of he has done his degree in honors in English University, English language, and as well as economics and political science from one of the illustrious institutions, the SP College, and he belongs to Sheetal Nath. Yeah, because Sheetal Nath has been taught in school, Hindu high school, one of the premier institutions of Kashmir. His upbringing has been from that place. And Sheetal Nath, as we know, it was the epicenter of Kashmiri Panditry of the cause in the contemporary 20th century Kashmir. And that's how it is. And certainly everything is connected. Everything is connected with it. And then all these great leaders were from about today. But also about the ardent, about the culture, about the revolution, about people's movement, about the tradition, about the festival. And this Sheetal Nath was a very great representative. So, I mean, Zutshi Saab, I would like to say that Zutshi Saab has a very, very complex personality. At one point, at one side, he's a very compassionate, very brilliant, compassionate kind of a person, very noble kind of a person. On the other side, he is a very hard, lion-spirited person, lion-spirited personality who can fight for any cause up to the end. He stands it because there are many a number of examples, especially when our diaspora in the post-migration scenario, displaced diaspora. I mean, he has always been like other brothers and personalities. He has always been at the back end column of his community, and it is because of his valor, his intellectual valor, his consistency and conviction that he has been trying to impress upon the corridors of very high people in the corridors of power in Kashmir state as well as Indian state as well as our country, and make them understand, make percolate down at that particular insulatory power, make them sensible, make them sensitize them about the problems of these people who were thrown to the roads, had nothing to survive upon. There's one of the best communities of the country was on the roads, and our students were studying. There were no institutions around. There was no money to survive about, and it is because of his effort, his endeavor that finally the camp colleges and camp institutions were built, and then the professors came in. All the teachers from Kashmir, they got and taught there. It is he who, I mean, he who tried to, I mean, persuade income tax authorities to, I mean, help these people, because these people were on the road, and they had a very different state of mind. They were bewildered, they were tarnished. So it is because he could gather that, make the authorities have that concession. And besides that, he's a very great institution builder. He's a formidable role in institution building. Currently, he is the president of Hindu Society, Education Society of Kashmir, which was one of the premier institution, but was literally reduced to, it was on the ventilator, and now he is putting all his energy into it. He is always with the cause. So there are many things about him. I mean, well, go on and on. I will never end. But certainly, we are very much privileged. We are very much happy to see with us this great professor, a great friend, a brilliant academician, a great leader. He reminds me of, I mean, not exactly, but to some extent, he reminds me of, because I was very young when those leaders were there. But he reminds me of like Narayan Potedar, a great parliamentarian, great Kashmiri. So let's all welcome him with great, respect, reverence, and affection into the school. Zutshi Saab, you're welcome to the Sheetalnath Conversations 82nd historic show. We are very privileged to have you with us. And to begin with, because you are very much fond of Keats and Wordsworth, and I know about that, so I'll just put one line of one line of Wordsworth. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. You're welcome into our 82nd show, sir.
Namaskar, Jugalji, and namaskar, my viewers also. It's a great privilege to be on the show because Jugalji is doing a commendable job in creating the archives of our culture, history, music, and this is a wonderful job he is doing. We are all proud of him, Jugalji. Today, I was so happy because the way you talk, it was a blend of Byron and Keats in terms of the beauty of Kashmir, in terms of the historicity of India, and it is always a challenge for the speaker who has to speak on the topic, because it's a brilliant man who is moderating the show. So I have to start now.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, you are welcome. I am a professor, noble professor, the gentleman professor, erudite professor. I feel so, warm in your being you in our vicinity, although we are virtually connected. I'd like to to begin with, as per the paradigm and structure of this program, we take our visitor to the childhood. Let's talk about the BL Zutshi Sahab in his infancy days, in his college days, in his grown-up days in Kashmir, till this imbroglio happened in 1990, and how did he witness Kashmir? Because you are a very sensible man with such a sharp intellect. Certainly your observation will be something very great. Before we go to the main topic, I would like that you narrate us about your story of Kashmir. How was Kashmir as you witnessed it? Please, sir.
My mother says when it was a very chilly winter, dawning of winter, and it was snowing, that I was born that day. There were icicles around. So that is the start my birth in Ranawari, where that time bulbuls had left, ducks were moving around in the lake. So that has been
Oh,
my
that's so.
impression in terms of that, because the place was so beautiful. It had trees, it had chinars, it had a temple which was I was attached to. So it was so beautiful a place because I could see right from my window the procession of ducks and
Uh-huh.
the march of crows to the temple in the evening. That is my
That's so wonderful.
these are my memories I have of my childhood. Going to school,
Hello. Something has happened with this. Okay. I don't know what is. There is some network issue. Hello.
was
So just have a network issue on your side. And yeah,
the
yeah.
Hindu high
Please.
school. As you know, it was first I read in Hindu middle school, Parshiyar, then Zandarmala, and then joined Hindu high school, Shitalnath. We had very brilliant teachers, and I think your maternal uncle was one of my great teachers, was Mr. Mujib. My attraction, my infatuation with poetry, with music is because of his lectures. He would deliver to us as students in the school. And in in creation of Hindu institution with Shivnarayan Podedar, there were, I mean, number of schools which were started.
There's some situation there. Probably there was a network issue with Zutshi Saab. I don't know whether he'll be able to join us again.
Hello,
Yes, yes,
am
Zutshi
I
Saab.
audible?
You are audible. You are
Audible.
seen. Yes, yes, you are back. Please continue.
So
There's some
Nadim
network
Saab
issue
would
on your side. Yeah, yeah.
Nadim Saab was our guest teacher, and that created my attraction, infatuation with poetry, with music. And then that in Hindu high school, it was a center of theater, it was a center of drama, it was center of so many activities we had that time. And it was the place where Sheetalnath, which was the headquarters of Kashmiri Pandit conference. So I had an inkling, I had a peep into the working of the Kashmiri Pandit minds. As a child, I would listen to the lectures of Shiv Narayan Podedar from the ramparts of that temple, near the temple, the stage. And I would, as a child, I would see Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad and other leaders coming to that place. These are my childhood memories of school. And one important memory I have, I was must have been about a 7 years child. I was in the lap of my maternal grandfather, moving from Chinkran Mala to Ranawari, because on that 9th August 53 was the birthday of my brother Avatar Muttu, who's in America. It was birthday of his birthday in Ranawari. So as soon we reached Ranawari, it's a mammoth procession. I mean,
Oh,
so many people, a lot of people I found. I told my grandfather, what is this all? He said,
hmm.
Sheikh Saab has been arrested. It
Oh,
was 9th August 1953. So my first encounter with politics was, in the sense of seeing a scene, was in 53 as a child of 7 years. That is there. But I grew with independent India, I grew with Republic of India. But second important thing was, before I go to college, in 1964, I was having haircut near the barber shop in Chingramala. And
oh,
a tall man on the cycle with a tin that what's called bugle. He said, Jawaharlal Nehru has passed away. उनका वो नेहरू नहीं रहे. So
oh.
I left halfway my haircut, and on my size bicycle I moved to Ranawari. So it was a shock to me. I don't know what happened to me that I left, because in my childhood I had read Nehru in terms of discovery of India, the glimpse of world history, his
Yes.
letters as a school going child. And in 61 I had again, when I did my matriculation, I told my father was away, that I'll go to this to hear Jawaharlal Nehru. He had come to have a lecture near what's called this hotel, Badishah Hotel.
Batshaw.
So my grandfather was barely old. He heard it. He told my auntie, don't allow him. He must not go. छोटा बच्चा कहाँ जाएगा lecture बोलने. But I had some attraction for the hearing leaders, so I went there. Despite what my grandfather, I left. My auntie said, "You leave slowly and coolly. You move on." So I reached there. So for the first time, I heard Jawaharlal Nehru
Oh,
speaking there.
that's a great experience.
uh, he was talking about planning, which as a young boy I couldn't understand much. And Bakshir Rahman was that time the Prime Minister of Kashmir. So I heard him there. It was not much of my understanding, but I couldn't. He was teaching like a school teacher or college professor, explain to the audience what planning means. So that was
Oh,
my one encounter there. But important role has been played by my college, SP College. SP College that time had very brilliant teachers, brilliant professors, most of them. I can't say all of them, most of them. There was J.N. Cole, Jagannath Cole, known as Lord Byron. He was a
Lord
brilliant
Byron.
English professor. There was Nazir Ahmad Khan, who was teaching us Shakespearean dramas, exceptionally brilliant. We had Ramnath Cole, again a very good teacher of English literature. We had Professor Hajni, the great person in terms of the literature of Kashmir. He was on the staff. Then was Kashinath Dar, who had a command over both English as well as Hindi, Sanskrit. These are brilliant teachers. I mean, Alan Dar, who teach history. And that time, we had even Mr. Teng had joined that time, Mr. Professor M.K. Teng. He was a young lecturer. So, but
Oh,
there are these 5, 6 teachers were of eminence. In sciences also, we had good teachers, Professor Podedar, Shivanji Koul. They were legends of their times. So my point is that this institution had a wonderful teachers. So one day there's a Teachers' Day. I remember that again. So, so Mr. Sadiq was the chief guest on the Teachers' Day. Mr. J.N. Cole, these were the 3, 4 professors who would speak there. It would be J.N. Cole, Professor Hajani, Professor Alan Dar. They would speak as Kashnath Dar. So J.N. Cole said, he told that time whether he was chief minister, I don't know, I think he was chief minister at that time, said, your government requires King Kongs and Dara Singhs to be the principals of the colleges. It was referring because he was not made principal, despite, he said, I stood first class, first Banaras University. My vice chancellor, Sarapalli Radhakrishnan, requested me to join the university as a lecturer at that time. He refused for the love of Kashmir. He came here. He said, what is the treatment I'm getting? that I have been ignored to be the principal of the college. That time in Kashmir, J&K had about 6-7 colleges total in J&K. But there were what you call in Kadardan. Sadiq Saab, after some time, made him first head of department of English, Jammu University, was Professor Jugal Koul. So, and one thing more was about these teachers. They had an attire of, I mean, attire in sense, just Shakespeare कहते, for
Yeah.
oft April proclaims a man. Their brilliant dress sense, the type of sense, cleanness, all that. It was very inspiring for me. In fact, one of the attractions to join the profession was again the attire of those professors who were teaching us that time. They were classical times, I would say. And then assertion. I was a debating secretary of the college. I was the editor of Pratap magazine. I got very good. I was stood first in my class in my arts, right from PUC to BA. So these were some attractions I found my college. College tenure, college years as very interesting. The best years of my youth, because in school I was poor in mathematics, so had tough time to pass the matriculation afterwards, but I could manage it. So here I found a very sweeping, my sixers and four runs in terms of my getting more marks in different subjects examination. And then I did my honors in political science and English literature. That also was there. And I had a brilliant teachers who taught me there. So I have the best memories of SP College. And SP College, a blend of what is called activism, sports, assertion, all these things I could see was SP College that time. And I don't know how today it is. It's one of the very important colleges of North India. So afterwards, I went Kashmir University for some months, 3-4 months. I started with English literature. Then I thought I had already read it, joined political science. I thought I'll go for the competitive examinations, but I didn't know. I was more of a in activism or in terms of becoming president of association. There's a one thing more I have forgotten to say. In
Yes.
65, we had a tough time in SU College. There was some element who said Indian dogs go back. So this
Oh
was
my God.
written on these walls of the college. First time I found a confrontation with anti-national activities in the college.
My
So
God.
I was made as president of Indian Students Union, something very interesting. Indian Student Union, I became president, and I remained there for a year or so till I joined college university back for a BA courses. So it happened. It was it was not because I had not seen those elements, but it was a start of secessionist and jihadi elements coming. I found it in the 65 in the college, SP College. But we had a good principal and staff. They could contain it. But again, that memory of being a president of the this called college, this students union that time, Indian Students Union, is still I can't forget that. And that has been very important there element. And then one thing more in my activism has something more when Nehru died in 64. When I reached Ranawari, though I collected my aunties and my mother and everybody in a procession, and the shock they found. Uh, so I remember Vajpayee's words, Bharat Mata ki god, soi nahi hai, soni hai, but still we didn't know what happened there. So I became president of Swash Federation, the young boy. so I had inclination to be a part of activism that was there. So then I joined Kashmir J&K University for my MA Political Science. So I did my MA and then sat for my entrance for SIS, School of International Studies. I was selected. I took IPO, International Politics, as my subject. But there I had a very important one encounter, an anecdote which I want to share with my viewers.
Yes, please.
I had a teacher, I had a professor. First, there's the one professor, Bimla Prasad. He was a nephew of President Rajendra Prasad. Brilliant professor of history. Brilliant. His book is still considered on origins of Indian foreign policy as a monumental work on foreign policy. He's a great teacher he was. He told us you must, when you evaluate history, you have to purge your prejudices and biases. That was the first good sentence
That's a
I tried
wonderful
to understand the,
day.
of Bimla Prasad. Purge your prejudices and biases. Then only you can evaluate history. Afterwards, I was attached. There's the professors. We have to be on your seminars and all that. Professor Amal Sondi.
Okay.
He had a fantastic uh, personality, handsome, tall. I could, when I saw him, I was overawed seeing that man, professor. I was overawed. What a man. So slightly I need to give his introduction. He had stood first in Indian Foreign Service.
Oh my God.
And afterwards, he was appointed in the office of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, in his private office, Prime Minister's office, because they found a very intelligent young man, so he must be there. So he was there, but one day the file on China came to the gentleman, the young man. He must have been undersecretary at that time. He wrote a distant note on the file. So Nehru would study files during night. He told his secretary, "Who is this young man? Who has dared to write like this? He's the new young man who has been posted by Foreign Service in our office. Because I want to meet him, get him here." So in the midnight, he was called, and Nehruji was working. But Nehru would work during night. So he said, "You have joined this service, yes. This one, you are Prime Minister, right? Something you write there, dissent on that. So better for you, you have to be, you join a university, not the department where the government, you have to have a certain mechanism to be followed. You cannot be there." So Nehru made him to join as an associate professor of School of International Studies, because that school was established by Jawaharlal Nehru to train Indian diplomats in terms of the culture, civilizational things, and all those
All this
about.
part.
So that was how he did it. But that was the man I was put in charge. You can understand. I was attached the professor, so I
Right.
was overawed by this man. He told me, Zutshi, this was sir. You have to, you have to, you have to prepare a paper on Sheikhullah.
Okay.
Sheikhullah. Must sir, what for? Sheikh? I couldn't say what for. I had not that capacity to say what for. I
But you
said,
were amazed
what
at
for?
why Sheikh Saba.
Because my Sheikh was not my topic. Because I was not working on South Asia. I was working on foreign policy.
Foreign
So what
policy.
I had to do with Sheikh? But I couldn't say nothing. I couldn't. Then he gave me 15 days. I'll give 15 days. The paper must be good, presentable paper. So that is it. So I told, there were some Kashmiri boys and girls there, 4 5. I told them. He has told me to prepare a paper on Sheikh Abdullah. They were also amazed. Why should he, what for your, so I can't. After 15 days, I had to work very hard, because adjacent to this school, we had Sapro House. Sapro House,
Surprise.
Barakamba Road.
Barakamba Road, yes.
There's a big library, particularly on the history, constitution, politics, laws,
Yeah.
old newspapers of
It's a very
British era, and prior to that.
modern
Very, very prestigious library of those times.
Barakamba Road, yeah.
Yeah, for 15 days, I had to work very hard to prepare this paper. So after preparing paper, I went to Sondi Saab. I told him that you kindly have a look at the paper. He said, "I need not to look at the paper. You are a research scholar. It must be good." Now, one thing, after some days, I'm inviting Sheikh Saab and Abdul Beg Saab to the university, to the school.
Okay.
You had to speak.
Read this paper.
Those days, Sheikhullah was external from the state. He was living in Kotla Road, some house, because
He
he
was
was
exiled.
external from the state.
Was he exiled that time, or he was exiled?
External from the state that time for
Okay.
some year or so. So
Okay.
then he had to go to China and all that. So he was external. So it's again a problem for me. What to do now? My late father told me what about why you got trapped. Shaifullah is a very important political figure. Why should you speak on? And when I made a research paper, it had all the footnotes as Bimla Prasad. You had prejudice and bias, but I wrote
Yes.
what was there. It can't be goody about Sheikh Saab.
It has to
So
be a scholarly
uh,
paper. Yeah.
it's a scholarly paper.
Yeah.
So I went. There's a hall. I found it in a big hall. It has been not in the seminar room, the
Okay.
main Sapro House hall.
Sabros,
And
that's the people. Beautiful.
the elder Parsati, not this part, his father was presiding, who was in the parley between Sheikh and Indira Gandhi afterwards. He was presiding.
You mean
I find
diplomat Parsasarthi's father?
father, exactly, his father,
Oh,
exactly, his father. Uh, it was 1970. So
oh.
what to do? So it's a galaxy of Kashmir watches. First time I met saw first time DP Dar. I saw first time PN Bazar. TN Koul I had seen in the university. He would give lectures. I knew him. TN Koul, PN Dar, other professors were already.
Access.
And oh yes, PN Huxer,
Yeah,
they're all
access.
there. And there from this side, I have Mr. Beg Saab, his son-in-law, Mr. Shah, everybody there, and students and faculty. It's interesting what I speak, and because Sheikh Saab's utterance would be news, it will be news for tomorrow's papers, everything, everybody knows. So, Jigalji, it was a tough challenge, but I accepted the challenge. I spoke. I spoke for about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. With foot. In between, Beg Saab would stand up and say, intervene. So, no, this I disagree here. So, the chairman had tough time, but finally, Sheikh Abdullah came to my rescue. He said to Beg Saab, why don't this young man has dared to speak about me? Allow him to speak. So, this
Yeah,
is
but Sheikh
still
Saab was a very
in the
tall
annals.
statured personality, very tall
Uh,
statured person. Sheikh was
Uh,
a very tall
so it was
statured
interesting
personality.
because it was not all good because Shaifullah has a problem. He would speak one thing in Arispora, another in Baramulla, the third in Delhi, fourth in somewhere else. So that consistency is not with his son also. So my point is,
That is his
so I had
political
tough time.
compulsion also, which they have created
Uh,
themselves.
in analyzing this as a research paper, I had to do all those what we could do. But then he came to my rescue. He told Beg, please restrain yourself. Allow this young man to speak. So that's a very interesting encounter, anecdote I had. I want to
That's
share
a
with you.
very, I mean, wonderful,
Another, another I had,
beautiful anecdote,
another I
beautiful
had
anecdote.
the Sheikhullah. I was
Class of
told by
people
some
they were.
general. I was walking on the Residency Road. There was my student, Jagmohan Raina, is a Sardar student of mine. You might be knowing him.
Jagmohan
So
Rai.
he told me that there is a seminar. You please join us. But I also, I should have first said no. Will I join or not? When I entered that business school hall,
Hmm.
I entered the business school hall. I find, okay, hello.
Yes, 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 sir.
I find when I entered business school, I find Sheikhullah, Professor Yasin was HOD history.
Hmm.
Is Ishaq Khan, he was my classmate in the university in history, and this I saw the banner Confederation of India and Pakistan.
Okay.
Man, a guy was what to do now. Then they all spoke. Then I was invited as a political and a student of politics from SIS. That you speak. I said nothing. Confederation won't do. Even India in that time, also in '47. Why did we accept this confederation? That time, even the Akali Dal, Muslim League wanted confederal India. I said nothing doing. So it was Patel and Nehru, others even they all opted for a nation state. Whether it might be we had to give something. So I talked about nation state, the importance of nation state. So this another encounter I had with Sheikh Saab during my student days.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we won't go. We'll be talking. We won't be talking much, but a bit of nostalgia you've given about Shidalal, but bit of Ranavari, and then we'll come to the main topic of today. Bit of Ranavari.
Ranawari was a small island because the backwaters of Dal, right
Yeah.
from Nehru Park, you move on and you reach Nagin Lake. and flora and fauna you can understand. It
Beautiful.
had the romance, it had the beauty, it had the chirping of birds. My romanticism, my idealism, my something love for poetry, my
Of you
love in the compassion also, because that's the reason.
sprouted from
I,
that land. Yeah.
someday I was told why Samsar Chandra became a bird watcher, because the place was such he had to be a bird watcher with his sensitivities. So
Yeah.
that has been there. Ranawari has given something more, and there's more assertion because this area had a majority of Kashmiri Prints, and this was the island. Then you have to move towards your area, the Sothu and other things.
So to another place.
Onward. So we had in between rough weather in terms of the rowdies, and so we are prepared to fight with them. So that gave them an assertion in terms of in our personalities.
You
So
learn how to
Ranawai
deal with.
people you find very assertive. That the reason is because of that. The other side they had to go via Malkha. There were thieves those days. They would take kangris or chadars.
Oh,
They are known for that.
that's so wonderful.
Those days there was not much of money. So those thieves were waiting somewhere, hiding, and come out and pound someone new. They at least take your kangri that time in the winters, or even chadar. So
That's so
so we had to be prepared to face these eventualities, and we became strong. That was really important for us.
that
So
indelibly
that
has
has been, and
contributed.
Ranawari has a when you talk about Kashmiri politician, most of politicians come from Ranawari.
That's true. That's true. TN Call is from a diplomat. Okay, he's
Yeah.
a diplomat and all the great.
TN Koul, you have Shivnarayan Faujdar, you
Shinaran
have Shamlal Saraf. They're all from. You talk
that
about two important veterans, these journalists like Watal Saab and Kak Saab. They're all
Pakistan.
from
They are from Vanavar.
Ranawari.
Yes,
मैं भी
that's
एक असूल आदमी का रैनवारी का ही हूँ.
that's so wonderful, sir. I mean, now let's proceed further. We have already one conversation on Ranavar. You already done. We'll just reinvent that once because it is to
I
be
don't
more.
want to repeat now. Repetition.
But it doesn't matter. We'll just do today.
Hmm.
I mean, coming to today's topic, this 20th century landscape. I think everywhere in the country, if we have a look in all the arenas, from politics to literature to the culture to the traditions, because we're moving from the agrarian economy to the modern economy, and the Western education had come in, and awareness had come in, and monarchy was breaking out, and ultimately something was changing at the ground. And Kashmir was part of this country because all the princely states of this Indian subcontinent. So I really want to let's come to the today's topic as we have a significant role to play, and I had many lectures here. I had the lecture on one. The first judge of Indian High Court was a Kashmiri Pandit, Shambhunath Pandit. I had been to his place as well. I have got one document. His great granddaughter came, and she was a Bengali. She came onto the show. But having said that, let's go to the domestic side now. Let us know about how this whole emergence of a new breed of leaders. What was the ambience like? How they were? How what was their mind structure? How was the development? What was the socio-political order which probably provoked them to become such great leaders? And who were they exactly? Let our diaspora, our younger generation, and people, visit that era through a very erudite professor, a visionary like you.
Slightly, I'll make a digression here. Allow me
Yes.
to make that is needed for me to in my
Right,
uh, architecture of my ideas.
right, sir.
English education, because Macaulay came with the introduction of English as a language,
Yes.
and he had intention of making us babus and slaves of British imperialism. That was the that was
That
the
was what
Panda's
intent. That was the intent. Yeah.
intent. But what has happened? That education created a counter to that views. What happened?
Mm.
Our leaders, the entire gamut of leadership you find in India, it has been whether it has been uh, Gokhale, Ranade, Tilak, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel,
Even
Veer
Tagore, for that matter, Tagore and other
Tagore,
people.
Subhash Chandra Bose, all
Bose.
they have been all educated in the British University, Oxford. They have read Voltaire, they have read Locke, they have read Mill, they have read Rousseau. These are the ideas of freedom. Let us not I come from a civilization which I am proud of. I'm a Indian, my
We
Kashmir
are great
Indian.
Indians. How India?
But at the same time, we cannot ignore the impact of what British wanted. They wanted creating a slave community here,
Intent
and
was
number two,
different,
the
but it helped us out. Yeah.
baboon. But it contrary to it happened. So you had a class of people who studied in British universities or Indian universities, like whether it is Lucknow University or Allahabad
Yeah,
University
you had this.
uh,
Yes.
Lahore University or
Even
Calcutta.
journalism. Yeah.
They were the universities which created the seeds of unrest against Britishers.
Yes.
Understand? Subhash Chandra Bose
Awareness. Yeah.
became rebellious because of the thoughts of the Voltaire and Rousseau,
Yes. Roosevelt. Yeah.
the songs of liberty of Shelley. So
Shall
my
what
point,
for
when they
Lenin?
read it, but they read in
Lenin.
this university, oh,
Many
you
people.
came now. I mean, Tilak said early in 1920s, Swaraj is my birthright.
Yes.
Complete
That was the
independence of my country. It's a something in history, what call it accidents of history. If Tilak would have not died in 1920s, I mean 25, Gandhi would have not emerged on the map of political horizon in
that's
India.
very right.
But
That's very
a very, very astute, brilliant, dynamic leader India has produced.
no doubt.
There's no doubt about it. There's a
Malgama.
Ferguson College in Pune which created intellectual giants from that place. Even the Prime Minister, we had this South with liberal economy who brought him. Narasimha Rao was a product
Narasimha
of
Rao.
this
Yes,
university.
sir. He was
Most of the intellectuals of India came from that,
South.
or from the Saint Xavier's College from Calcutta, or from these colleges. They came, all these came. They became, and or the Oxford and the Cambridge universities. It was Subhash Chandra Bose, it was Jawaharlal Nehru, it was
Yeah.
Gandhi, it was Veer
They
Savarkar.
they
Everybody came.
qualified civil
They came.
services. They qualified civil services. Yeah, they qualified
So
civil
what has
service and then
for
abandoned.
my
Yeah.
my Kashmiri leadership? Who are the inspiration? I mean, for uh, for Shamlal Sarab, the greatest leader for him was Jawaharlal Nehru. So was for Fotedar for that matter. That time, I mean, you have to see times of that. That
Fotedar
time they
was
had
a
become
class, sir. Fotedar was a class support. Let's come down to the ground level. How this
now
emergence of the
we
leadership.
we come by one by one. Now let us start with Fotedar. Shivnarayan Fotedar was a brilliant student from SP College. Then he
Yes.
did MA History from Lahore University, right? He
Hmm.
stood first year and got a lecturership in the Prince of Wales College, Jammu. But
Yes.
he left
My college.
job. He left job, but when he left job because he had a passion of activism, because he came from a family, because his mother was nanny, and she was a philanthropist, activist. He worked for women's education, lo- and her working was prior to SP College. So
Hmm.
that was in her family that Fojadar Saab got this uh, spirit and passion of working for the society. Hello, am I
Yes, sir.
audible?
Yes. You are audible. Please continue, Professor sir. Yeah.
So he championed the causes, and what has happened in Srinagar Fotedar, he also became part of this group, Kashyap Bandhu and Jalal Kalam. They
Jalal
would
Kalam,
meet.
Justice Kalam.
They would meet weekly near this Hari Parvat. They would meet, and there are some people also. Kashyap Bandhu emerged into the reform. Shivnarayan Fotedar also had impact of these leaders. They know because he was younger than them. Shivnarayan Fotedar was younger in age to Fotedar. Sorry, Kashyap Bandhu and Mr.
Kalam sir.
Uh, but then it was 1931. The unrest. What happened against Maharaja Hari Singh, and the repercussions were on Kashmiri Pandits. They were looted, they were destroyed, the houses were destroyed, killings took place. So that was the creation of the Yuva Sabha, the emergence of Yuva Sabha, to have
It
the
emerged
voice.
from here.
Because, very interesting about this gamut of politics of Kashmir. Kashmiri Pandits have been, what they have done. I mean, they fought for the roti agitation, for employment. Then they
That's a
fought for the state subject. State subject was introduced at the base of Kashmir
Kashmiri Pandit.
Pandits. They educated for them. Because of Maharaja would get people from outside. So they were educated that time. Muslims were not educated. So Kashmir was educated. Jobs were not given to other people who were coming from outside. So that was agitation was there, that these small jobs must be given to state servants. And the agricultural land must not be given only to the sons of the soil, as they call it. This agitation was done by Kashmiri Pandits. Understand it? This very important thing. But afterwards, what has happened to us is a different story now. So, so
Zusab,
after the agitation,
Zusab, just a small intervention for an information. What was this? What was the what could have been the number of Kashmiri Pandits at that point of time? Was it substantially reduced, or it was around 5-10 lakh in 30s, 1930s or 40s?
prior to 47, it was not. Kashmiri Pandits were a good number, particularly in the Srinagar city. Particularly in the Srinagar city.
Okay.
Particularly in Srinagar city was. But not they were a minority, but still, because they were
Substantial
so
number
because
population.
when you Tyndall Biscu also in Sun and Shade, you find there are 3 chapters only dealing with Kashmiri Pandits. The students joining them. Earlier, the first to join was Kashmiri Pandits, despite their reservations and all that. But they joined it. That happened. Because they joined, that is what happened in India also. I tell you this time, in those times in 30s, 20s, 40s, or in the early 19th, 20th century, it was that time Nehru or Karju or H.L. Kunzru or
Kunjuru,
some they
Safro,
they
Tej Bahadur
they
Safro,
it was Safru. They were born and made
Saifuddin
become
Kichlu,
leaders.
Saifuddin
This
Kichlu,
time they not come. You know, it was a particular time that they emerge as leaders, because this time there was no space for Nehru, nor for Tej Bahadur Safru, nor for Karju. There was no space for them. You have to understand the journey of history. That
yes,
time they were there. A professor of Jawaharlal Nehru Chaudhary was there. He said, my father would take me in my lab to see the Prince of Kashmir, Jawaharlal Nehru. His articulate, because he was a brilliant orator also. He had a
he was a very good author,
because
brilliant author.
that time you had no mandalization, you had no sects. Entire community that time was the assertion of Indian independence, and they became symbols. Now this time they cannot even get a small job in the politics of India. They will not stand. A time came in Indira Gandhi, you had Panch Pyare, you had
Ah,
Haksar, you had
Piyandar,
Piyandar, you had Piyan
Piyandar,
Kaur, you had Kaur. One there Panch Pyare of Indira Gandhi. It was also one's time. It was a time. So
That was
M.K.
also a time.
Kavut had Panch Pyare that time. So this is how history moved. At this time, you could never imagine of Nehru or of Gandhi. I mean, this what's called Kunzuru, H.N. Kunzuru. But they went to Kashmir, but they lost the language. I remember as a student, I got an invitation from H.N. Kunzuru. He was the president of Indian Council of World Affairs. So we went Shivaratri. He couldn't speak Kashmiri, but same vegetarian dinner it was with damalu, chaman, everything.
Yeah.
Oh, this.
Yeah, they have
They had
preserved it. Kudos to them that they
preserved,
have preserved their
but poor
traditions
fellows,
very well.
they have lost the language. That's a tragedy. Which my point is, this time you could never imagine Nehru, despite how brilliant and how intellectual he could write.
Times have changed,
That, that
It's a
times have
dynamics of
changed.
time. Dynamics
Uh,
of time.
so for Kashmiri Pandits, that they created what's called the Yuva Sabha. That it was Yuva Sabha created by
But all of them,
uh,
all of them
yeah,
were, all of them were all of them were part of this national conference, this amalgam at that point of time, because the
but
Muslim conference broke. Yeah,
he, he joined late. Phulada Saab joined in 52. You know what happened that time? Mr. Bazaz, they say, was instrumental in changing into national from Muslim conference. That's the reason about hello. Can you hear
yes,
me?
yes, yes. I'm listening, sir. I'm listening. Please.
What happened about 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 Bazaz? The interesting story. He was a brilliant man, but his perceptions of his politics or history might have been, which doesn't. We don't accept it.
We will never
But
accept.
he because he never understood civilizational entity as a of Kashmir, which Fodedar understood, which Kashabundu understood, uh, which Shamla Saraf for that matter understood. He didn't understand. He was a brilliant man. He,
Hmm.
he was a classmate of Shaifullah. He started his Khidmat paper. He was only for some time
With
with
Asta
this
and then
Kashmir,
Khidmat, yeah. Hmm.
then left. And you know what happened? In those Kashmir didn't like him, obviously for the right reason, because and even Muslims also didn't like him because they felt he's an agent of the of which he was not for that matter. So that was, and despite the Indian liberalism gave him a place to in Delhi, he was jailed also for some time. But in terms of the rebellious nature, is Kashabandhu. For 8 years he was in prison. Understand
Yes.
different places, Bhadrava, Punch, I think, Bator, so many places. He
And
went with
Zutsab,
he went
Zutsab,
with
I want. Would you please throw some light? I have heard some very historical anecdote. I heard from some great personality, well-read personality. He said that even Iqbal, he had a connection with Iqbal in Lahore, and what happened in those times because of some poverty and some our peasant brothers used to go and work in Lahore, and they were being teased by the people. That's why that Kashyap Bandhu came into the rescue of those Kashmiri peasants who are working there as
the,
a laborers
the
in
paper
Lahore.
force from Kashmir was called Hatu, and
Yes,
he didn't like it. What they were doing.
Iqbal also played a role. They said that Iqbal talked to him on this subject. I've read it somewhere. I don't know. Yeah. Hello, hello, hello. Susab, you're playing with the instrument. Something has happened there. Yeah, I think it's again disconnected. Hello, Jusab, there is a disconnect now. You have to again reconnect. Hello, hello. There's a problem on that side. I was telling him in the beginning, right from the beginning, I need to call him again. Just let's wait for some time. Maybe he rejoins again. There's a problem at internet issue at his place.
Hello,
Yes, yes. Now
am
you're
I
coming.
audible?
Yes, yes. Now you're audible.
Okay,
Please, please continue.
these are the
Internet
so
issues. Yes, yes,
so that he became the secretary of that labor organization. He
yes.
fought. I mean, the time he became, even he was a part of the rebellious good group of the those who created mutiny against Britishers. I mean, so he was a basically he was the first revolutionary of Kashmir for that matter. Understand it?
Yes.
He had a rebellious mood. He was a reformer, in terms of the dhoti, the parent off
Change
and
of
dhoti,
attire of Kashmiri
and
traditional
widow
attire. Yeah,
marriage, and
widow marriage.
even the environmentalist. He was a brilliant writer in Urdu, exceptionally brilliant writer. He he joined National Conference because he felt Shaifullah to be the tallest leader. But after in 1942, he found him to be a Mazhabi leader. He said, "You are like a pontiff from what you call it from Hazrat Bal." He didn't like. He
Oh,
had idea that this will be like a party which doesn't believe in religion as a force. So that was he got upset with Shaifullah, despite he had respect for him. So he parted away from Sheikh. He's a bold man. He
oh,
said, "No, I don't want to be that." Something the great man who wrote poetry, he wrote a will also that his ashes must be immersed in Jahlim, not in Ganga. He found Jahlim to be more sacred for him. And what tragedy happened? That he died in 95, 85 or 86. He had a big orchard, he had a house. In the first 90, that his house was torched. The great proud
oh.
Kashmiri house was torched. His all
Yes.
those fruit trees were unearthed.
Ah,
Was That orchard became a desert. That all that effort he had made, He had the love for Kashmir, despite all his contribution. This what has happened in 90 was a tragedy of great man.
Here's a picture.
Okay.
Here's a picture, Dutsa. Here's a picture I'm placing that Kashyap Bandhu ji leading some procession. Nehru ji is along with him, and
Yes, yes,
beside them,
yes, 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 yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
reminds of his
So
relationship
he was a brilliant
larger than
man,
life.
but he worked for the society. He worked for the community here, but he had his own because he had an understanding differently on these issues. Whereas uh, about Jalalkam, he is very assertive, very bold leader. There's no doubt about it.
Because
He
he
had
was a justice. He was a justice
he had a sense of humor. He had tremendous the the humor between the Afzal Beg
maker.
and yeah, which can't be said in these such talks.
Indu Kilam ji
But
told us on one
his
another like this.
interesting
Yeah.
about his that one day he invited Jawaharlal Nehru to his place house. So Jawaharlal came to his residence, and so he had created a lot of dishes he had made for him. Nehru said, "Kalam साहब आप बताए आपकी जो वाइफ है उसने कौन से डिश बनाए हैं जो आपकी मैडम ने कौन से डिश जो आपकी बनाई है उसने कहा दो बनाए हैं क्या किया उसने एक फिश बनाई एक कोफ्ता बनाया व्हाट कॉल कश्मीरी कोफ्ता बनाया बस रेस्ट
Yeah.
रेस्ट ऑल जो बाहर से लाए हैं या कुक ने बनाए हैं मतलब जो
Okay.
उन्होंने बनाए हैं योर वाइफ हैज मेड आई विल हैव ओनली दैट fish and kofta. This is because Nehru said, "No, I will only have this, not other things else." So he was a good host because he had a background of landlordism and all that, but very assertive, very bold man. He would not
Assertive,
be.
you say.
There's a one theory that he was made justice 1949 to silence him because they could not contain him. His utterances, personality was such he was difficult to contain Jalal Kalam.
Oh, oh.
So they thought better make him a judge. He was judge for 12 years, then he after he died also. So that has been that is how this. But he, as per his book, I mean, which he wrote about the Kashmiri Pandit Jalal Kalam, there's an introduction of the book. It's about
Hmm.
26 pages. That is, he discusses the tease, the spark in this community. That's worth. There are two books which I have found where the Kashmir points have been defined. One is Anand Kul
Hmm.
Bamzai, other is by Jalal Kalam.
Anand
He has
Kulbamshahi.
explained the spark. The spark is the brilliance. The spark is uh, the the shrewdness. The spark is the legacy they have of a civilizational legacy they have. That has explained the 25th. So there I found he's a very proud Kashmiri Pandit, Jalal Kalam. But he was silenced, he was given a jayship and they wanted because they
They
wanted
want
a
him to.
very assertive Kashmiri Pandit. In terms of in Shivnat Hodedar, he was a very good orator. He's a brilliant English command over English language.
Yes.
Nuances of
Parliamentarian.
language. I have first time heard him when I was a student at SP College. We had a debate whether presidential system of government is good for India or parliamentary. So we went to the MEM College for the debate. I'm long back, 64. Uh, we went there. So there was after debates over, then he was there that time chairman of Legislative Council. He had to preside. So he had to give a presidential speech. Jugalji, he spoke for 1.5 hours,
Oh,
tracing entire Anglo-Saxon, empire,
history of
convention,
history,
British Parliament, and
origin.
all that. It was a it was an extempore brilliant speech, mesmerizing speech he delivered. Man, what a man he is. Then I heard him in Amritsar College once. He was speaking on Lal Ded and Haba Khatun comparison. There was something. And how the way he spoke, both that he had studied so much. So in addition, scholarship, study
But
made that
but it is
made
there is
that
no
speech.
comparison. There could be no comparison between Haba Khatun and Lalde. They belong to very different genres.
You know how people do their times.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting time afterwards. But
yeah.
another thing, when he was nominated to the because they wanted Sheikh Ullah wanted Saraf Saab to be he was very loyal to him as a minister, so he
Hmm.
was made that time he had joined. He was sent to Parliament. That was good for him. When he went to Parliament, he spoke on the Parliament on the issues and all that. So
Yeah, I have the
Nehru had an
great
eye of
footnotes.
a brilliant man, what a brilliant man he is. So he spoke very well. He became part of delegations. He went to Turkey, the other country, and he would preside some of the sessions of parliament. He's a brilliant man. He created a lot of impact in the parliament of India. And interesting about, has been nominated by National Conference. He speaks against Article 370 continuation. Nehru had to intervene. No, it is a temporary article. We'll see that it's stop somewhere. We have to make it. But he spoke for about 40 minutes against Article 370.
But
That was
Zutsab, doesn't it tell one thing that in those times, the people like Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, or stature of these great leaders, it was not so vitiating. People were secular by mind thought. There was not a difference between the religions, and they were accommodative. They had a kind of a patience. Don't you think it was a different time? This is what I
I,
recall
I
as a yeah.
partly, but one thing there, that time the entire Kashmir, one thing, Muslims and Pandits
They were
belong the
one.
same day.
Yeah.
But that time we didn't have created in terms of Shamim or Shafiq Qureshi as speakers that time. So there was only Shivnarayan Patidar. He
He
was
was a physics.
called Krishna Menon of Kashmir. He could speak for hours together. That was brilliance in him, that there was no competitor to him that time. There's no Father DP. DP was a brilliant man, very brilliant person, astute, strategist. I mean, a man when
Immaculate, well
Nehru was not
communicated.
given passage by British police bandobast to enter university, he created a passage for him. Then he told others, who made this passage possible? We have President DP Dar is a young man who is studying law here. Must show me. That was the love at first sight between Nehru and DP Dar. So DP Dar, voracious reader, he could
Strategist,
quote
great diplomat,
who
great
could
diplomat.
quote Ghalib and Iqbal and Faz. They mesmerize the audience. But
Mesmerized.
for oration, Kasam was there, he was shy. Conversation, he was brilliant because Corbel writes, if Kashmir goes to Pakistan, I request the rulers of Pakistan to detain his services. And when he became the minister in Indira Gandhi's Council of Ministers, Frank Maurice, in those times, Mandan Matters for the
Blackmail.
column. Induction of DP is like a peacock in the poultry house of Indira Gandhi. It was what he wrote. He was a brilliant, the strategist, and he
No,
had
sir. He was one
he was
of the 71 war, 71 war, Indo-Asia,
and in
USSR
71
relationship.
war, I think
Yeah.
when Nixon was fretting and foaming, he told Al-Qaeda, our India's ambassador, tell your Indira Gandhi, your prime minister, that you stop war. Sir, she is touring Orissa. This is in Kissinger's My White House here. This is what I speak. What? We are fighting a war. She is touring the Orissa. Call up
Is it?
Dhaka and
Is it?
Gandhi talks to Nixon. And strategist was DP Dar. There was some
Deepidhar was
in problem in Shimla. He was that time in hospital. From hospital he started doing. So he's a brilliant man. There's no doubt on.
I mean,
Uh, in his
for that matter, Indira
in his
Gandhi.
lifetime, we had differences. Kashmir Pandits didn't own him, despite a brilliant man. One thing, when he died, I have not seen such a huge mammoth gathering of Kashmiri
Kind of
Pandits.
cloudy.
He died. There's a mourning for him that they found the loss of a great man. He died young that way. So
57.
DP
He
was
was
the
57 only. 57.
57 now.
57.
He's a brilliant man. There's no doubt about it.
So coming back to our home ground leaders like Kashyap Bandhu. I mean, everything is we know about Kashyap Bandhu ji, but Shivnarayan Fatehdar, besides being orator, besides being a vociferous leader and a very stout leader, a spirit of a lion, and there was no parallel to him. He was, as you said, that he was known as Krishna Menon of Kashmir. But at
My
the same
point,
time, yeah,
uh,
yes, please. At the
Shivnarayan
same
Fateh,
time, I wanted to know what was their role in looking at this shrinking this constituency of Kashmiri Pandits, because they had to survive against the time, you know, at that point of time. These leaders, did they foresee anything like that?
one thing I tell you about this, that there are certain things which I about Shivnarayan Fateh, because I have made a case
Yes, sir.
study of him.
Please.
Shivnarayan Fateh was a KP centric leader. because he is all, he, despite he had a global outlook, brilliant man, liberal and all that he was by temperament, but he was a KP centric. Issues about Kashmir were predominant with Potedar Sahab. And whenever there was he had to speak, with assertion he would speak on issues. When he was even the chairman, like Jugal, he was the president of the Yuvak Sabha. Whenever there's Shitalnath, he would be very blunt and candid in his expression. Sometimes there's a lobby who called him criminal for that matter. He was not criminal, but he had he had he had weakness to. I won't use word. He could understand uh, the bleeding hearts of his community, because it was with the passage of time when. There's a discrimination in Kashmir. He could see it, the discrimination in terms of jobs, in terms of admissions in the colleges and in universities. There's a discrimination, particularly in medical.
What I'm sorry for the intervention. I mean, when you are speaking extempore, I mean, you bring the jewels and the
What
bounties.
did you-
I really relish them. But certainly, I would like to, as a very, I mean, man of very low domain and low
No, no, no,
intellect
yeah.
than you,
You're a brilliant
I would
man. What?
I would like to only know about didn't these great leaders? I agree, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah and Nehru Saab, they could not understand it probably because Sheikh Abdullah was also a secular leader at that point in time. But didn't these leaders, Shiv Narayan Fotadar, Kashyap Bandhu, and others, thought that the onward time, because of our shrinking constituency, onward time there'll be nobody listening to us, and why not to create a mechanism for the safety and safeguard, constitutional safety and safeguard of our community? I don't understand this thing because they were brilliant, but something could have been done because they had the power.
My Nehru misjudged Sheikhullah. There's no doubt about it. Sheikhullah was
Okay.
in 48. His role has been commendable in the Srinagar city. There's no doubt about it. But but he had the political ambition to become the head of what's called independent state, which must be recognized by both India and Pakistan. And that time, the political scenario that time in early 50s, where the Cold War between Russia and America, and at least Stevenson coming here, what made the exit of Sheikhullah? Exit was that he had the reports were he met at Gulmarg Adlai Stevenson, who was the CIA chief, and that time they wanted footage in Kashmir.
Hmm.
So there, and number two, he was, there's no doubt, the tallest leader, but at the same time, you can't call him as a secular in terms of that, because he should have been part of the Indian liberalism, Indian secularism. He
Yes, yes.
created afterwards, when what you see afterwards, the speeches he delivers in R.S. Pora and somewhere else, which were not palatable, which Nehru also heard what he's talking about. They were good friends, but for the sake of national interest, he had no other option but to get him arrested. Afterwards, there was a United Nations. There was
Yeah.
a lot of countries introduced a resolution condemning India. 67 nations that time when he was. I remember when Nehru went there, and he would represent himself as a foreign minister. He said, "I can't. Even I can't. I will. I might have to. I will, for the sake of my nation. These are the words. For the sake of my nation, for my sake of the national interest, I can do anything for the sake of my interest. I have to safeguard my nation." Without, he was very much Nehru, who was champion of peace to be called that time. He was very brutally frank in talking like that. So even his very important, because he wrote against and in Ats Chinar against Shavla Sarab. There is a trust, or for example, DP Dar, he called him a mole. In the Ats Chinar, he calls DP Dar, what's called uh, PN Jalali and Amal Musri as the moles of the government of India in there. So that has been there.
That's a
So
typical Kashmiri mindset. They think everybody to be a mole of somebody, something, one part or the other.
one
Yeah.
thing in terms of clarity of understanding the policy, in terms of when they say earlier, Sadiq Bakshi, they were not interested in making a part of India. But after
Okay.
they were convinced that it is to be part of India, and they threw a lot, particularly Sadiq for that matter. There's no doubt about it. He's an intellectual. There's no doubt. A brilliant intellectual of
I
the
think he was
state.
an intellect, he was a socialist, and yeah, very strict
He,
administrator. Yeah.
but this wavering and then coming back to this and this, I mean, this dandelion, what happened was
I mean,
basically,
he should have. He was a person who went against Jinnah, and he was a person who rejected the Muslim conference by Abbas, that Chaudhry Abbas, and he said, "No, we'll stand by the." Yeah,
even in 1974, there was a Navre Sabha. Afterwards, one year, Potedar Sahab passed away. He was ailing. Sheikh Sahab had come, power 75. So he said that to Kashmir, you have to go for menial jobs. And don't come,
why?
don't expect these big jobs and good jobs. It's not
It's a
possible.
news to me. I don't know
Uh,
about this.
so Potedar Sahab was presiding. He stood up, Sheikh Sahab. My community, which we belong, I belong, this will not, they will do, they will excel in our whatever trade and business and
They want to.
education. They do it. They have to excel in that way. That has, there's a forte of this community, basically.
That's
They are,
the
they are,
subject.
they
Yeah.
are appreciate that he had the guts to stand up and tell him this.
He was a last Mughal, last tallest leader who could speak and rise to any level. He was stout like a
He,
lion. Yeah.
he succumbed to what he said. Yes, and no, he stood up and said. And after some months, he passed away. Poor fellow. So my point is that he had the guts to speak and speak very forcefully. So what happened afterwards? We had a very brilliant. We had Mr. Hundu Parallel Hundu as a minister, brilliant lawyer and all that. We had Mr. Tuku, who was a judge who gave judgment afterwards about
Mohan
Sheikhullah.
Kishan,
Mohan Kintu. I mean, Hundu was a brilliant man, brilliant teacher of
lawyer.
English. Magar, one thing is he was wedded to national conference, but in terms of he would see, but keeping eyes shut. Maybe he had a week because he has seen our exodus also. Hundu Sahib saw our exodus. One thing more which which you wanted to question me now, in my soliloquy, what pains me, because afterwards we came with 90, we had the worst time. I remember I was part of this struggle. We had Pan Kashmir, we had leadership, we had Kashna Penta, we had Tengsa, we had
Panta Sahab,
KL,
Kashmir Panta.
we had this young people around, Agni Shekhar, Ajay Thrungu,
Shekhar ji was there. Yeah.
all that. But one thing it pains me that we couldn't make an assertive voice of the community. Understand? The split voices, what happened? Then again comes to me when Shivnarayan Podadar was very towering leader. There was Gopi Kishan. He was running Sudhar Samiti. So whatever good he was talking, there's another, he would negate what he's talking about. That he was authority on what's called yoga, Kundalini yoga.
They were
It
doing
has been
Shivalin.
then
Shivalin and Shitala.
because there's a persecution mentality in the community. Persecution mentality. We have not lost it. What Tandal Bisku writes in his Sun and Shade, that when these KPs became clerks there in Maharaja's time, one would write against another clerk that he is doing like this. So Maharaja got very much annoyed one day. He told his this Koul was his superintendent, Tian Koul's father. What this nonsense? Was that this is a part of their racial trait now? So what has happened? So
That
we
still
have
holds true till now.
that
Yeah.
is holding, that is multiplying now. I don't know
It's
now the generation
exponentially
might
growing.
good way.
Yeah,
We have
I want to say that there were two centers. I don't mean in terms of premise. I mean, main was the Sheetalnath, and then they had the.
no,
There were, tell us something about
we afterwards we
agitation.
had यहाँ प्रजा परिषद में मिस्टर हरकार थे, यहाँ हसन काक थे, या मशनवी साहब थे, मगर उसके बाद भी जो एक हमारा जो एक लीडरशिप, एक वॉइस वो नहीं हो पाई हमारे में.
Why
What
it
you
was not
ask
filled
me,
right now.
it pains me also. We live in this 32 years exile. the prime minister has no time to visit us. The home minister has no time to visit
That's
us.
unfortunate.
They don't talk. They don't even shed a tear for us.
I think there is
Like,
a lack. It is lacking leadership. Rather not. I mean, Prime Minister earlier there were Prime Minister.
there
It
is
is lacking
something.
the
There is
leadership.
something. Some ailment somewhere. What? Why should it happen like that? What should
Should not
happen?
happen
At least
because
Vajpayee came once. Manmohan Singh made Jagti. They he came. I came. Gujarat came. Why should this not happen with this community? Now they
I
are.
don't blame. I don't blame the bureaucracy or the center politics for that. I
I
blame our
I,
community leadership.
I
Yeah.
something has gone which will demoralize the community. What happened today? One day, I mean, I talk of Panch Pyares or whatever, baby. When I in 90, I had to meet Prime Minister. It was very easy for meeting with the Prime Minister. I met the Manmohan Singh number of times.
Yeah,
We
I know
could
that.
meet. But what is happening? I met Chandrasekhar. Vasan Sajid told him that there's a delegation. Why don't you meet him in the parliament? Next day, they were after. I said, come on, you meet Prime Minister is waiting for you. Now today we don't have anybody. In a way, I will just share with you. I have written to governor. I want to meet a certain case about my society. Nobody bothers about it. So there is no pressure group opera. So whosoever is the leader we have in different political parties, they'll also
More
lack that maneuvering to represent the community.
and
What was
brilliance also.
in Narayan Fatehdar? What was in Kashmir Bandhu? What was in Jialal Kalam? I missed him. And this community, which has done in jails, were there. My leaders were in jail. Right from the contribution this community has given to India in terms of not that the edifice of this
Freedom
great
struggle.
nation,
Freedom struggle.
the
Freedom.
idea,
Freedom movement. Yeah.
the liberal democracy, fundamental rights. This is because of the people, whether they were speakers there in the parliament who had the idea at that time. They were there,
That's it.
and they were mostly the Kashmiri Pandits. One from the civilization angle, which we have given to India, other in the making of India, our contribution, making of India. I will call making of India. Because who dies if India lives? Who lives if India dies? Nehru's very famous words. So when now because one thing is there, Mr. Modi has a conversation in Gujarat. Mr. Amit Shah has a conscience in Gujarat. Patel is our own man who has been a very important home minister. But our own people who have been leaders, we shun them because we find A, B, C fault. This is a theory because our leaders have no conscience, as you rightly said. They have no
They don't
conscience.
have conscience. They are not assertive. They are not personalities. They are not teetotal like Shivnarayan Potedar, like I mean this man Kashyap Bandhu. They are not totally devoted. I mean I mean they are moving against the time, and situations have changed. They are not able to impress upon
I
the
tell you,
whole quality of the.
यहाँ जहाँ पर ये एजिटेशन थी यहाँ पर प्रजा परिषद महाकृषि पंडित फ्रंट पे यहाँ के एजुटेशन में डॉक्टर साहब के साथ
Jusab,
यहाँ
Jusab,
केनानी केनानी के एजुटेशन थे काशीनाथ अहमद हमारे अशोक अहमा के फादर वहाँ पर जब जेल गए
ah,
उसके
yes.
एजुकेशन यहाँ
Even for
आई
that
मीन
matter,
एजुकेशन एवरीवेयर fighting for the cause roti agitation
Makhala Lama was a Makhala
we are
Makhala
in
Lama
front
was the
of
first to
them
be reckoned with in Jammu as per leadership was concerned. He was a very stout leader in his time.
and we
Jagrati
love
Dikhe, the principle of
Kashmir. We have
yeah.
we have passion for Kashmir.
Sir, let's
So
move on slightly. Let's move from here. I want to go back because I know we know this. We can't talk about more about politics here. But one thing I would
uh,
really just like
uh,
to say, I would like to
uh,
say, what about this? The
leave politics.
times of whatever we have to say is about this. We once upon a time we exerted, we played or what do you call it? Tong and hammer. With tong and hammer, we were all together. In probably I was just a very 3, 4, 5 years old child. Then 1967 agitation. And tell us something about some reminiscence about you being part of Hindu high school and you being part of you must have witnessed it
I
from
was a
close vicinity.
young man. I was also I had to hide myself for 1 week because my uncle was killed. That Harinath Muttu, he was my uncle.
Okay,
So he was killed
okay.
in the agitation. So it was our tragedy of our family that time, and we're there. But I don't know the leadership that they emerged that time. They couldn't play their cards. I mean, that time the home minister comes, everybody is on pace. They have their issue is so much. Our women folk they face those lathis and those water what's called this lathis in the near this Ramchandra. I have seen how tear gas shells we have faced, our young and old, but we couldn't. We failed to that time our leadership. I was a part of leadership. I mean, those who were leading the. They couldn't generalize that in a that
Mm.
movement for the betterment
So
of community.
if they couldn't
And
do
that
it then,
has,
how is possible now? Yeah.
बताए,
Like if they couldn't such a mammoth struggle which shook the entire nation, which was broadcasted on BBC every day, all the politic hegemony were restless because of that agitation. If that such a great mammoth historic agitation could not make our leaders to think and get something from the political hegemony in terms of anything for the benefit of the community, how can it be done now? Now the lot of water has flown down to this river. I mean, Jhelum is dry now. I can't say that it is flown down to the Jhelum. Jhelum is
the
dry. Yeah,
Jugalji, 1967, why that we are living in our own homes. There was a demand. First was a demand regarding that. I mean, that girl. Afterwards, it became a bigger demand in terms of jobs because discrimination. That was a catharsis of the demands of the community. I can understand that. This time, 90 has been that we have been thrown out from Kashmir. From our roots, we have been thrown out. From our houses, from our temples, from our institutions. We've been thrown out. This is a national catastrophe. And it's a shame for the nation that who believes in democratic rights and fundamental rights, right to live, right to life, right to sustain them. For some of these employees who are on the roads, they don't, because safety is very important. Denial of safety to the people around, denied the habitation for them. So we have been denied from everything for that matter. When they want to use us as an advertisement or a marketing gadgets, that's different. But this catastrophe has really uprooted us. They have uprooted us. I mean, I am all the time when I'm sitting in my home or somewhere else, I am again going to my back to my memories. I have
memory
spent
lane.
about 3 years of my life in Kashmir, in the lake area, in the institution, the temples. Now I made replicas here, everywhere. But replicas cannot represent originals for that matter. I again go to Kirmawani. Again go to Chishta. I again go to Sharika because they are my originals. They have deprived us from that because you are part of the independent India. You say it's a part of India. It is not a partition that you are left like in India, Pakistan. They could write. Nair could write his books on that. It's a part of India. Being a part of India, I am denied an entry into in that part. Giving me safety, giving me home, giving me earth. That's the tragedy of this place. That is a
It's
tragedy.
it's a
The painful tragedy.
dichotomy of our times. I mean, a great person. It's more tragic than the
I
Greek
mean,
tragedy.
one gets
Because
very well with tears. It's very easy to say we have lost something great
our
because we say
civilization, our
civilization.
roots.
When Michael Bridger asked Nehru, "Why are you so obsessed with Kashmir?" Because Kashmir is this fountainhead of Indian civilization. And number two, I'm a Kashmiri. My, I love my mountains. I love my lakes. He said, Kashmir like a beautiful woman whose beauty is impersonal and above human desire, such as the Vale of Kashmir. But a
That's
famous quotation here. Where, so
good.
that is how we Kashmir. For me, Kashmir, as you rightly said in childhood, I could understand that clouds coming and as if the clouds are kissing the suburban mountains. The imagery could be
Imaginary.
the monarch imagery was Nadim Saab. So my point is, this is something, Jugalji.
Any another personality we have left with in this 20th century topic of today, theme of today, 20th century. Shamlal Saraf, I don't know much about him. He was a minister in
Raf was an
cabinet of
organizational man, was a humble man, is a gentleman. Basically, He was basically wedded to a party. But did his work, but he didn't work against the community nor against nation. When the call came in '53, he sided, despite his best relationship, he sided with the
The
interests of
country.
India.
That's nice.
That's important. They might call him Gadar, but true to be that way. I don't call. And a humble man. He had a small house. He had a house in Rajma. That's all. That he said he's a corrupt man. He wrote in Nazi, which he was not, poor fellow. His son, he was only daughter, was a lecturer in Hindi in the women's college, and son-in-law was an engineer. He rose to be chief engineer. What more? What, nothing more? There is no ancestry now. The son is there. There's no
That's
ancestry in terms of Chukku Saab or Hundu Saab. What is there? They're all honest people. It's not like the Bakshi or brothers and Bakshis or Sheikh Saabs. All the wealth they have, everybody, or even those secessionists, jihadis having terrible money, they're all poor fellows. That has been there. I won't call
anyway,
them.
sir. Zusab, now, I mean, I think we have come very
Well,
ahead of, we have passed. I mean, we have
let us
gone
not.
into the many other
Let us
undesired arenas as well.
Thank you. It's a
But then
pleasure.
again, it's an emotion when comes in that certain things
Yeah,
come up naturally. This is not a
I
political
love.
show, but
They
politics is
might.
part
They
of
might take Kashmir. They
sociology.
cannot. One thing I will tell. They cannot take Kashmir away from us. It's in our hearts.
It will remain.
We can
It's
Kashmir.
it
Even
is
they
there
are
are, yeah.
created Kashmir for Jawaharlal Nehru. Said, I want only God and this. So this is part of my DNA.
It will remain
They will
so,
not
and
take.
in times to come, something will improve. Maybe our brethren from there, as well as us all, will some mechanism had to be. I think my question again, as a young man, because who never understood what these people were, which you explained, narrated just today. But my question comes as a practical man, as a pragmatism in my brain. Why didn't they evoke a mechanism then? And today again the same. Why didn't we have a mechanism now to say what, to substantiate what you just said, that it cannot be taken away? Taken away means practically when we are not living there, when we are not being part of it, we are only connected through the memoirs. I mean, what is there left? So what I mean to say is mechanism then and today. In those times it was much easier. Now it's slightly difficult, but there is no mechanism as such. There is no doctrine as such, and probably we can blame Pakistan as the greatest culprit. And let's hope some wisdom will come to that country and something will improve on the ground in Kashmir.
Let us
Thank
pray. Let us pray. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? Let us pray. We are optimists, like you and me are optimists. Let us hope for that. You also
Thank
I
you very
go to
much, sir. Thank you.
thank you
Thank
very
you very much, sir.
Because
As I
thank you very much for a wonderful
As
evening.
I
I
said,
think
you remind me of the
thank
you remind me of the
thank you.
last Mughal, Shivnarayan Potedar, because you
Thank,
are one of the most
thank you.
stoutest and very vociferous leader of Kashmiri Pandits. And God may give you a long life and good health. And let us all, I mean, remain in the romance, submerged with our stout voice, with our conviction, there's a demand from these people. I don't allow question and answer session here. The Pachna Gasam part of it, we go on a different plane. But one thing, there's a demand from your great friend Maharaj Krishan Jalali Saab. He has said that request request
Jalal is a
request
dear friend.
Professor Saab. There are many requests. Somebody wanted you to talk about Shimla agreement. I won't go to that because it's not. It's beyond the
That can
jurisdiction
be
of this program.
that can be a
But
different
somebody,
issue.
Zutshi Saab wanted to ask Professor Saab, ask Baiji to, narrate some poem, some few lines of poetry. Will you do that?
Poetry तो
Favor to your great friend.
I don't poetry तो है नहीं इस वक्त कहाँ से कहूँ
दोस्तों के लिए करना
याद नहीं
पड़ता
है
है सर, क्या करें?
some other time some other
चलो.
time I will
It was pleasure. It was a
let us
great pleasure. We are very much humbled that you came. It was your magnanimity, and probably we have gone through a complete crisscross through this beautiful history of emergence of leadership. It's a controversial subject, but then again, it had to be done on Sheetal of
it is not
Conversations.
controversial. It is I have poured my heart. I don't know whether people
No,
like it.
no, no, subject. I'm saying
Right.
subject. You
Some
poured your heart. You brought the moorings. You brought the different dimensions, indelible, in-depth dimensions of this entire panorama. So it is so wonderful. I'm talking about the subject, not you, sir.
Right.
It's your privilege
Right.
that you are here. Thank you very much. You came. Good health, best wishes, all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thanks a
Namaskar.
lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Namaskar.
So that was Professor B.L. Zutshi. You must have heard the fire in his words, the language he speaks, the firm conviction and boldness for which he is known about. A great man, a living, probably a living legend. I wish him many, many long life and a good health, so that at least we have somebody around which reminds us of the era of Shivnarayan Potedar, which reminds us of times of those great leaders he talked about just now. And hope is the only thing we can just think about. Hope is the only thing which can make us to live for future, design something for future, plan something for future. What else is there in this universe? I wish everything becomes good and hearty and wonderful, and Bonhami comes back again, and our country remains charming, inspiring to the world, as remains the one part of our country, the Kashmir, of which we were talking about today. Before going, I want to share again a Ghalib couplet. साज़े इमाए फना है आलम पीरी असद. Asad is the takallus of Ghalib. साज़े इमाए फना है आलम पीरी असद. क़यामत क़यामत खाम से है हासिल शोख आबरू मुझे. With that couplet, thank you very much. You were wonderful. It was wonderful to have another wonderful program and conversation in company with you, witnessing it, be part of being this great conversation. It's always delight and always grateful for your participation. So we meet next week, next Sunday, with another beautiful topic on Kashmir. Thank you very much. Till then, namaskar, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye.